What's going on, folks? Today, my name is Rob Basedow, accompanied by my team, and we bring you the Remembrance Project. This is a project I've been thinking of over a year, been talking to family members and friends about far and wide, and today we're going to dive into the common folk from around our area and learn stories about them and their untold ones. Today we have a beautiful story, and she happens to be my grandmother. Her name is Carmela Franzone, and today we take you on that journey. We hope you enjoy. How you doing?
I'm fine.
I'm glad to have you here today on the first episode.
Glad to be here.
So, there's a lot of questions we have for you. This is a powerful project, and we wanted you to be the first one on it because your life has been so impactful to not just us, but everybody around us. Now, I want to hear how you feel about participating in a project like this.
I'm glad to help. I'm very flattered that I'm number one. And I'm honored, really.
Cool.
I really am.
That's great. Now, I'm gonna need, let me hear you say your full name for the camera. What's your full name?
Carmela Maria Franzone.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna start with a couple of questions that, may be comfortable for you with childhood. All right? Now, how many siblings did you have growing up?
Including me, 10.
10. Okay. Can you name them off?
Yes.
They have to be in order.
Okay. I have my brother Mario. He was the oldest. My sister Delma.
Okay.
My sister Disma, which we called her Mary.
Okay.
My sister Elda. These names are all Italian names.
Italian heritage names.
They were Italian opera singers that my parents loved. So they actually named a couple of my sisters after these opera singers that they loved.
Wow.
That's why you never hear of a name Disma or Elda. And then there was Josephine.
Okay.
And then there was a sister of mine who they named me after, who passed away.
Okay.
She was a baby. She was maybe 7 months old. Not quite a year. I'd say 7 months old.
And her name was Carmela?
And her name was Carmela. And then I was born and they named me after her.
Okay.
And then after me came my brother Michael.
Mikey Mike.
Mike. And then after that came my sister Rosie.
Rose.
And then after that came my brother Tony, who was the baby of the family.
Okay. Okay. Now, we talked about this in different moments, but we're going to talk about it again. How did being named after a sibling that had just passed affect you?
At the beginning, when I first heard it, it wasn't a name that I wanted to begin with.
Okay. What did you want?
I would have liked Debbie.
Debbie. Okay.
But I was honored that they did name me after her, because she, it was a shame that she didn't live. She caught this crib, they called it at that time, they called it crib disease.
Mm-hmm.
They never found out actually what she died from. She was a baby, so they called it just crib disease. They found her, she was breathing one minute, next minute she wasn't.
Oh,
and it was pathetic, really.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that at that time, in those years, the early years, they didn't have funeral parlors and stuff. So everything was done in the house. So it left very, very hard impressions on everybody,
Yeah.
My mom had passed away.
And when did she pass away?
She was only 42 years old. I was 9 years old. So my dad and my older sister and brother actually raised us. We all stood together. What could I tell you? It was really heartbreaking, you know. But we were, I don't know if you want me to say, but we were a happy family, even though we had nothing. We were poor.
Poor.
But we didn't realize we were poor because everybody was poor at that time.
Yeah.
It was wartime.
So this was around World War II, you would say?
World War II. And my mom kept getting these headaches, and so they took her to the hospital. And on the way to the hospital was in the city, New York City.
Okay.
And she had a stroke, and she lost her voice. So she was put into a hospital, and she passed away. And that's another thing. Like I said, they had to wake at home. So
Now, how did that affect you at such a young age?
mentally, it bothered me for years. It did. It did bother me because I kept seeing it. And my dad, at that time, all houses, all apartments had string lights. And my dad used to have these nightmares of seeing my mother on the light string.
Yeah.
So and she used to love to play the piano. So it affected him so badly. We had to move. We moved.
So you
from
moved?
there. Oh yes.
You moved out of your house?
We moved out of that house, and he chopped up the piano. He took the piano to the lots.
Yeah.
The vacant lots they had.
Right.
And he chopped it up. He was having terrible nightmares. We were all having terrible nightmares because they sent her home from the hospital to die at home. And at that time, like I said, they did all the, there was no funeral parlors. They had them, but nobody could afford them, really. So they did everything at home in the house. She was laid out in our living room.
So you had to see it firsthand.
So when we were all young, very young, so we had to look at her in a coffin, a beautiful woman, young woman, in a coffin for 3 days. So it affected the entire family, not just me, but it affected my dad, who was a young man. He was left with 9 kids. So our life, like I said, was a tough one. But we didn't realize how tough it was. But we all had to quit school at a certain age to go to work. Otherwise, we would have been separated. They would have put each one in different facilities.
Different
that way.
places.
At that time, they called it a home.
Now, where did you grow up? Where were you born when you grew up?
I grew up in Forest Hills, and it's in Jamaica.
Okay.
And I had a lot of good friends, most of them Jewish descent, which was a fantastic time, you know.
I'm sure you were able to experience different foods and different
Oh yes, my dad was a great cook, and not only a great cook, but a great winemaker. And that's another thing. He used to make wine, and we used to have to crush the grapes. And just like you used to see with I Love Lucy, crushing them in that barrel, that was us.
with the feet?
And then we used to have to pick out the raisins that came from the dry grapes.
Right.
And my father used to make jelly out of it.
Right.
You know, we all did something. We all pitched in. We had fun doing it. Like I said, we didn't know much. We didn't know we didn't have anything.
But it was simple. And making it simple made it easier for you guys to just experience life.
Yes, well, my dad tried so hard. He worked 3 jobs.
3?
3. He worked for the Department of Highways, which is today, you see, they do the streets.
Yeah.
Which they don't really fix that. They don't fix them now, but at that time they fixed them. Right?
Yeah.
And he did that, and then he worked he drove a truck at night.
Wow.
He did a lot, and then he did cleaning buildings in the afternoon, when he came home from his city job. He did have a city job. He made $7 a day.
A day.
We lived on that. That's why each one of us had to quit school and go to work. Now me, I was very young. But I had originally started at 10 years, 11 years old,
Right.
babysitting for this Jewish family who gave me 25 cents an hour. And that 25 cents I had to give to my dad. And it was rough times, but today is a totally different world.
It is
People
a different
will not
world.
believe this, and they will not understand it. If we wanted to go to the movies, we had to look for empty bottles.
Right.
And at that time it was called Plaza Soda. I don't know if anybody in this
Plaza
world is going to
Soda.
remember this.
Okay.
And you used to get 5 cents deposit on it. And we used to save it to get to 12 cents to go to a movie, which was 15 cents. It was 12 plus 3 cents tax.
Oh, wow.
And we used to see, but you got a lot for your money.
They always get you with tax, even back then.
Yes, oh yes. Listen, but you got a lot for your money. We could stay there all day. We saw 3 cartoons, a long newsreel, and 2 shows.
So you're telling me I got to pay $18 to see a B-rated movie now?
That's right.
Yeah? That's
right.
funny.
And then, then the war, we had the war. And my mom died at wartime. So
That probably didn't make it any easier.
it was very, very hard.
Now,
My dad at that time, became an air raid warden. And that's somebody that, we used to have air raid sirens come that told you to shut your lights and take shelter.
for any
Thank God it
attacks.
was all practice. But he used to walk the streets to make sure everybody had their lights closed and people were in shelters. So he was out, even God forbid the bombs came,
Yeah,
he would have been killed, right?
of course.
So he volunteered. He was a volunteer for that. And then we helped wartime. We collect newspapers. We donated, we sold war bonds. They called it war bonds
War
at
bonds.
the time. And donated all that to the servicemen and their families.
Let me ask you, speaking on war, because wartime is very difficult, is your family the religious type?
A very, very, very religious.
Do you mind me asking what
If
religious?
it wasn't
What do you practice? What was your religious belief?
Catholic,
Catholic.
we're Catholic.
Okay.
And we were very, very religious. In fact, if it wasn't for the nuns, I don't know if we would have sought mostly anything. They were always around to help us,
Right.
the nuns. They took part, they took us places, they entertained us. It was a different type of nun than you see today.
Today.
It was called, they just wore hats.
Yeah.
They didn't wear the
The
habit,
whole garment
stuff
and
they have.
everything like that.
And they took us to the city. They took us to Radio City. Only
Yeah.
the young siblings, the other, of my family, which
So
consists of me.
So the church, in a way, took care of you guys.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I was lucky enough. There was a neighbor that took a liking to me, and she became like a second mom to me. Don't forget, I was 9 years old. And then, 10, 11, 12. And she'd take me to the city, and she's the one that, first time I saw the Statue of Liberty,
Yeah.
and first time I went up to the mountains.
Yeah.
We did none of this. We had none of this.
Yeah.
We're lucky we had food.
Right.
But we did have food that my father made that was very good.
Okay.
But growing up, my mom was the one that used to
Used
say
to-
everything was homemade.
Everything was homemade, yeah. I remember you
So-
telling me that. Now, let's time skip a little bit, if we may.
Yeah.
Now, you were being raised during the wartime. I want to jump to the 50s and 60s.
Well, I got married very young, Robbie.
Okay.
So I had just turned 19.
Okay.
I was engaged at 17. And you have to understand that years ago wasn't like today. In order to have a say in our house, we had to become 18 years old. My dad was very strict. He was really very strict with the girls because he was always nervous about
The guys.
Yeah, you had to be a father and a mother.
Of course.
So he used to say, I only want to meet the guy that you're going to marry. You know. And if we brought home any boys, they had to stay outside. We had a stoop. We used to sit on the stoop. And he used to talk to them there. And he used to give the okay. Like, okay, I like him.
I like him.
Okay. You know, with
Like the
up to him.
Godfather. He's like,
Yeah. So we were all, let's put it this way, very anxious to be out on our own, to live our own life. At that time, you know, don't forget, it was my like I said, my dad was a good guy, but he was very strict. So I got married very young, which was unfortunately. Had a great guy, but don't ever get married too young. It works for some people, but it didn't work for us.
It doesn't for everybody.
And it didn't work for 5 of my siblings.
Of course.
We each got married too young. It didn't work out.
Now,
For either way, we got divorced. I met my second husband, which
Okay.
is Bill, which was fabulous. I can't say the first one wasn't fabulous. He was good too.
of course.
But it was different world, different time,
Exactly. Different time frame.
and he had less than he didn't have much either.
Yeah.
So it was like 2 poor people together.
Now, to touch a little bit more, let's head over to the 60s for a second.
Okay.
The 60s.
What?
We have all different things going on. We have the start of go-go. We have the start of some of the most famous rock and roll stars coming to be. Okay? I heard that you actually took your son to
See
Woodstock.
the Beatles.
Where was that? Woodstock? Or where did you see?
We went to Woodstock with Bill.
You did?
I was at Woodstock. And
And what was that like, Woodstock? Because that,
you know, you can't describe it. You have to be there. But you got to understand, at that time, it was a no bra type of thing.
yeah.
All hippies. We slept outside.
Yeah,
We had a ball. That's all I can
of
say.
course.
You know. And then the next big experience we had that time is I was able to take my son to see when the Beatles came.
Now the boys from
That was
Liverpool.
at Shea Stadium. That was the first time they came to America,
Yeah,
and we were lucky. He was lucky enough
to see
to
them.
see that.
You too.
It was a big, yes,
too.
for me, I loved them. It was
You were a big fan.
It was a big, yeah, it was a crazy
Now-
time.
We're gonna jump ahead. Now this is a major time skip, but this is a time skip because after that you had your daughter, right?
Yes. I had my daughter Debbie,
Happens to be my
Which-
mother.
that's right, which is your mother.
Now we skip ahead past that. You're happily married. You moved to Ronkonkoma. What year would you say you came out here?
Well, it's 25 years.
1990? Is it
Yeah,
90?
90.
90?
I think it's 1990.
Okay, so you've been here you've been a resident here for a while,
Yes.
and you've gotten to see your family grow, and you've gotten to see different things transpire. Now, one big question: do you have any regrets in the life that you have? And if you do, please share with us what they are. I mean, it's just been such a tremendous life. You have been through all different timelines to
Well,
where many people can't say that they have.
yeah. Well, I'm thankful that it turned out really the way my life has changed. I lucked out a lot. I had my ups and downs. I had major surgeries.
Okay.
You know, and I've been fortunate. I can't really say that I have much regret. The only regret I have is I never got a driver's license. You know, but I I think I've been pretty lucky. I think God's been good to me.
He has.
That's all I can say. I
He
mean,
has.
I don't have, like I said, the only regret I have is that I didn't get a driver's license. Other than that, and that the fact that I wish I would have been able to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in show business. I wanted to be a rockette.
Really?
You know,
A rockette at Radio City?
Radio City rockette.
Wow.
But like I said, I had a very strict father, and he didn't believe in that. You know, he just was what it was. You know, so that is my biggest regret.
Right.
I would have loved to have been able to travel more because I was that
You
time.
found a passion.
Let's put it this way: out of all the siblings, I'm like the black sheep. I wanted to be more carefree.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be told what to do.
And they were more
I wanted
reserved.
to do it, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't envy anybody. Thank God I didn't.
Yeah.
Because life to me is what you make it.
Okay.
You know, you can't ask people to do everything for you. We had to learn by ourselves.
Now, there's one saying you always told me: the world doesn't owe you anything.
No, you
What-
owe the world.
You owe the world,
That's right.
and that's
You
one that's that.
if you
that's
don't
one-
help yourself, nobody's going to help you.
Okay.
They're going to say they're going to help you,
They don't always follow
but
through.
they don't always show. I mean,
Now, this question, this is a powerful one because throughout the years that you have been around, you had children, you had grandchildren. Okay. Are you proud of what they became? Are you proud of the legacy that you've left
yes.
to be remembered?
Yes, well, as far as my children, I couldn't be more proud. They never disappointed me. As far as my grandchildren, well. And now I have 3 great grandchildren. So I'm glad I reached the age to enjoy them.
You've seen it all.
And I stayed well enough to enjoy them.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Now, is there anything you want to mention? Anything else you want to add?
I just want you to know, Rob, I wish you a lot of luck with this. It was a pleasure. And thank you both.
You're welcome. Now, we want to thank you for taking the time to participate in this project. The Remembrance Project will go on for as long as people want it to.
Yes.
And thank you so much for being a part of the first podcast. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. We wanted to thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch our first episode of our podcast. And we wanted to thank our Nan for being the first person to be on it. Her story will be told for years to come. We look forward to the many new episodes and series that we have planned for you guys. Thank you so much for the constant push. And we'll see you next time. This is Keith. He's the writer. He will be writing all of our podcasts from top to bottom. We also have our film production manager in the background and lead editor, Rob Starsky. We wanted to thank you guys again. We have so many people involved in this project. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, guys.